Previous to 1978, I was very much on the path, very disciplined, very focused. And I engaged those around me, mainly my family members, who wanted to support what I was doing. So we had a very nice discipline going, of weekly programs, of daily chanting. And then when this 40-day period came, the discipline became even more intense. Because when my family saw what was happening around me, they intensified the discipline so that they could support me. Intuitively they did this. I didn't ask anyone to do it. Intuitively they did it. That's why I know there was a greater power at work, protecting me during that period. Coming out of this, I was a different person, as you would have known from my talk yesterday. I felt so different. The Vasudeva that was born then was not a seeker anymore, didn't need to seek for anything, didn't care to seek for anything. There was nothing to seek. The brow center that I wanted to break through, broke through. And in the crown, I am. Not I am anything. Not I am a god or I am a guru or anything. That disappeared. Just I am. And I said before, I became intensely aware of energies around me. When I began to interact with people and to speak, I could feel the energy of their intentions, energy of thoughts, energy of feelings. I could feel their energy in a very powerful way. It became more powerful than physical communication and contact. And so my world was different. And I was different. My consciousness was different. Of course, people were curious to know what happened to me, especially my family members, and I ventured some of it. And then this huge new awareness of how I saw the world was so impactful to me that I wanted to share it with everybody and say, look, this is what the world is like. And when I started to speak about it to people, it seemed that they didn't understand anything I was saying. And even though my family members partially understood, I realized in the depth of their being they didn't. So what happened in this scenario is that I was taken to such a level of consciousness, but everybody around me were almost the same way. Except perhaps for those who were directly around me and receiving a lift from it. But people were more or less who they were. So that was a little bit shocking, because I thought now everybody would see what was in me and see the different consciousness and see the energies that I can feel and see how I was responding to the world. But they were looking at me as the same person they knew. But I was a different person, and I didn't know how to communicate this. So soon enough, family members began saying to me, you better stop this, what you're saying. People wouldn't understand you. And of course, I know some of them didn't even understand me. So I learned to be quiet. I learned to say nothing about this inner world. And I learned to be the normal person on the outside. So to the world outside, I became the person they knew. But inside of me, there was a different person. How did I manage the world after? Well, I was teaching in a secondary school in our country in Trinidad, and Tobago. And I went back into the workplace. But when I went back to teaching, it was not as exciting as when I told you about it during my days of discipline and feeling the power of the brow and the power of the heart and being able to manage a classroom. Now my consciousness was inside my head, inside my brain, so strong. And I didn't feel that power to move the brow as I used to have. I felt so much ecstasy inside of me, I didn't care to move the brow anyway. So when I went into the classroom and I started to interact, I could feel the energies of these children, and it was all over the place. And I really didn't know how to deal with the energy that I felt, the intensity of the energy I felt. So after a year, I gave up the job of teaching. And I decided that I wanted to work in a smaller place where I'll be in less contact with so many people on that continuous basis, like a classroom. So as fate would have it, I got a job that allowed me that kind of less contact. And then some new feelings came into me. When I started to work in this new job and I saw the technology that surrounded me, I became interested in knowledge again, as I used to be during my academic days at school. And suddenly the whole world of academics opened up to me, and there was some kind of excitement coming. And I thought, you know, in this time when I'm just enjoying this inner space, not caring to do anything or to be anything, maybe I can go back and master this academic world. One of the things that I want to say to you that came to me during that period was that the idea we have of spiritual people is that they live in the clouds. They live out of touch with the reality of the world. And they depend, those who are renunciants and those who live like hermits and those who live in spiritual centers, that they depend on the world. They depend on people to give them things. And I was the kind of person who never liked that. I like to work for what I have. So I didn't want to be any kind of spiritual person who had to beg and depend on people. So I decided to myself, I must master the ways of the world. And I must be self-sufficient and independent. And I wanted to start with academics. And I thought to myself that if I continue my academic training or education, people will have greater respect for the spirituality that I speak about. And if I master the world of work, the secular world, people will have greater respect for spirituality. And that's one of the desires that I had at that stage. I wanted to master the world, the outer world. So after mastering the inner, my desire came to master the outer. And of course, you would have known that when I felt the crown, I felt that nothing could touch me again, but I could touch everything. Of course, people wouldn't understand what I was saying, but at least in their language and in their world, I could impress, I could master and show that I can master both worlds. So that became my desire. And as destiny would have it, I got a scholarship to go to the university, of course. I didn't have the kind of money that was required, but I got a scholarship, so it made it easy. And I thought, here's destiny telling me what to do. When I went to the university, it was a different story. I didn't care for a degree. I didn't care to become an engineer. That was the training that I was becoming involved in. But I decided that if I have spiritual power, and if I have mastered the mind, and if I have mastered memory, and if I have mastered visualization, that I can achieve anything in the academic world. So it didn't matter whether I had a passion for the subject. That really didn't matter. I can create a passion in me. I can see the world through the eyes of an engineer. And I could see the world through the eyes of anybody, any profession. So I chose engineering, and I chose to see the world through the eyes of an engineer. So I immersed myself in the education. I mastered the field that I was involved in, using the power of the mind, using the power of memory, using the power of intellect. And it gave a good feeling to actually use the spiritual power in the material world to be masterful. So I enjoyed my time at university based simply on this, mastery of what I was doing. Of course, when I look at the professors, I could see all the limitations. And as I look at the people around me, I can see all the limitations. I could feel their energies. I could feel their exchanges. And I was not influenced by that. I was influenced by what I want, what I wanted to achieve, what I wanted to be, how I wanted to impact. Of course, I would tell nobody about spirituality during these days. One or two people would get something from me if they ventured deeply. But apart from that, I would keep secretly within me all the details of my knowledge and experience. So I went into the working world after this, and I gravitated towards management, which I loved. I loved working with people, motivating people, training people, and being productive. And I enjoyed the working world just for that. That I could push productivity, that I could motivate people, I could support people, I could lift people, I could help train people, and I enjoy that very, very much. And of course, I became successful in what I was doing. I'd gotten to the position of a manager in part of the company, and I really worked that enjoyably. After a while, I thought to myself, I've had enough of this. I'm working to create profits, and I'm working where people don't really care for each other. Unions are fighting, companies are fighting, and they're fighting with each other. And nobody really cares about the working conditions for people. Nobody really cares about the employees, and there are so many limitations in the working world. And I thought, well, this is enough for me. Could I create the perfect organization? Could I create that? A new passion came. And of course, I love learning. So could I create the perfect learning environment? And I love healing. Could I create the perfect healing environment? And I love holistic thinking. I love environment. Could I create the perfect environment? And I became excited about creating this perfect environment where people can learn, where people can retreat, where people can heal, where people can be educated, and where people can be trained and developed in a holistic way. And hence Blue Star. It was the organization of my dream. And of course, as you know, it's non-profit. So I wanted to give to the world, and I didn't want anything. As much as I can give. And when people give to the Blue Star, it's a gift that is blessed. Because we do not beg. We offer a service and allow people to contribute. And that has been my love. So I learned how to work in the world, how to master the world using the spirituality. And that's what I continue to do. So I use the spiritual energy and consciousness as a gift. I use the tools to master the ways of the world. And today, I'm using it for the upliftment of humanity at every level, holistically. And that's how Blue Star has come into its form. And of course, that was the gift of the consciousness that I received in 1978. The Blue Star came after. And it's my joy today to speak to people about self-transformation and about world transformation and about holistic thinking and about helping each other beyond what is given to us and to help to create a better world. Today I feel as a master of myself and a servant to the world, a proud servant, one who wants to give, one who doesn't want to beg, but one who wants to give. And that's what I feel spirituality should be. It should make us rich, abundant inside, and not beggars. We should be able to work hard in the world to achieve all that we want, and we should serve humanity. We should give. And my dream is that people who need this kind of knowledge that I've given during these 40 days should receive it to the highest level, as I did. So the Blue Star continues to be an organization that reaches out to all, regardless of what religion you belong to, what walk of life that you're on. It's open to all. So that was my life after 1978. Now we'll meditate.